got a little something different this time. Instead of talking about my Zero, I was going to introduce you all to my wife, Nikki. And she has been riding with me on motorcycles for about 15 years now. But here recently, she has decided that she wants to learn to ride herself to see if she can do it. I'm all for this, even if she never gets her endorsement. Just the knowledge of it, it's always good, because if something wants to happen to me while we're out, totally not even motorcycle related, that if she needed to go for help or something and we were on the motorcycle, she would know how to operate it and how to get somewhere where maybe she get a cell phone signal or something if we're out. So Nikki, why don't you tell us a little bit about your progress so far?
Well, it's slow. My progress is very, very slow. You blame this on the fact that I do not know how to ride a bicycle. I never learned as a child, and trying to learn as an adult didn't go well either.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, is that I think a lot of people who have picked up riding motorcycles, they've had that under their belt, that they have rode a bicycle before, but this is totally different for you, isn't it?
Yes, it's completely different, and as an individual with, let's say, balance issues.
Balance challenged?
I'm balance challenged,
Okay.
Yes, along with my height challenge, which we could discuss later. I have very little balance in general. I have been known to slip and fall walking on flat ground. So asking me to straddle a motorcycle on two wheels and keep it upright was just a frightening idea to begin with. And it's been a challenge, but I do believe I finally overcame that part.
Yeah, and trying to get you to understand that a little bit of speed actually makes you more stable, not less. I know that's been a really hard thing for you to get adjusted to.
It is hard. It was counterintuitive for me to make myself hurl faster, which I know 5 miles per hour is not necessarily hurling.
Yeah.
But once I felt comfortable using a little throttle, I could feel the difference of the stability, and that motivated me to go a little bit faster each time.
So let's talk about, how'd you start out on the motorcycle? What did you first try to tackle?
Well, the first thing I wanted to be sure I could do was even to mount the motorcycle. I am shorter. I'm 5'3", and my inseam is around 28 inches. So your previous motorcycle, the Vulcan 800
yeah.
was a good height for me, actually.
Yep.
But the width of the seat and your pipes,
Yeah, and the running boards.
and the running boards, it caused me to have to set my feet further apart. So while I could still mostly flat foot, it was uncomfortable to me.
Yeah.
I felt unstable. And of course the bike is heavy.
It's very heavy, yes.
So my initial fear was just that I wouldn't even be able to mount the bike and lift it upright. And then as I began trying to do that on your Vulcan, I realized that, wow, this is really heavy, which I'd helped you with it before, holding it up so you could check the oil, that sort of thing. But, I mean, it became so real to me how heavy it was at that moment at the end of our driveway on the road.
Yeah.
Yes.
And of course, I mean, you had this unnatural fear that it was so heavy and you wouldn't be able to do it. And the least millimeter of it leaning to the side, you thought you were going to drop it when it had barely been moved either.
That's true. I had an irrational fear in general that I really wanted to force myself to get past. So I was able to straddle the bike, lift it up, tilt it to the right just enough to kick the kickstand back. Oh wait, no, I couldn't, because I could not reach the kickstand.
Yes.
You had to do that for me.
Yeah, it leaned over quite a bit with the kickstand, but it swung so far forward and is under the running boards, and you just could not reach.
I couldn't get it.
So that was the issue with the Vulcan, is that while the seat was close to it, you could not reach the kickstand, so that's not going to work for you. It was too heavy for you. And burning yourself on the pipes, you did that because you just did not have the clearance. Even though you could nearly flat-foot it, you weren't far enough away from it.
That was uncomfortable. Yeah. I realized quickly that hurts.
And of course, you also had an issue with how big the hand grips on my Vulcan was, didn't you?
I got you aftermarket grips at one point for, I don't know, an anniversary present. I can't remember.
And I like them. They were good. I kind of miss them.
They're cushy.
Yeah.
But they're large, and so I had a hard time doing that. I had a hard time reaching the clutch. Could not reach the run button quite.
The start
button with my thumb.
And then that's when I really realized that the Vulcan, it was just never going to work for you. I mean, I figured I still had it in the garage. I could teach you on it. I already had it. It ran. We had tags for insurance. It'd be good to go ahead and learn on. But at that point, when I realized you couldn't even hit the start button on your own, and you couldn't really operate the clutch or anything like that very easily.
I could do it, but it was not easy.
Yeah.
So you did allow me to try a few more times on your Vulcan, and that's when I learned I could feather the clutch enough to make it move.
Yes.
Which that was another irrational fear I had, that I wouldn't even be able to make it move.
Of course, did you ever give it gas? I don't think you ever gave it gas. I think you were just friction zone. Right?
I had friction zone the whole time, and I did drop your motorcycle.
You did in an instant. And the ongoing thing this whole time was the fact that you grab a handful of brake.
The front brake is
even going a mile an hour.
I was going fast.
Yeah.
I was lightning speeds.
Yeah, and that's what I was telling you is that, don't feel bad. I was glad you weren't hurt. I don't know how you weren't hurt. Dropping it on you.
I somehow avoided becoming a pancake underneath it.
Yeah. That was the great thing about it. I mean, when she grabbed that front brake, even going as slow as she was, it sank the front forks and then bucked her off. It bucked like a bronco and flung her off. And I was like, no one's going to recover from that. And the wheel was kind of turned up a little bit as well, probably, because we were going up a neighbor's driveway.
I'm sure it was turned because before I understood that it was very important to make sure the wheel's going straight before you stop. Mm-hmm. I've learned that lesson now.
Yeah. And then, of course, we ran the battery down. And that was fun, pushing off that very heavy...
600 pounds?
I can't remember exactly how heavy that one is. But it was very heavy, and I think I came close to heat stroke trying to push it off, get it running for you.
Because I refused to quit the day I fell off.
Yeah.
I insisted on getting back on. Someone always says if you're going to ride the horse and you get bucked off, you get back on. I've never been bucked off a horse, by the way.
You got bucked off that Vulcan,
but I got bucked off a Vulcan. So I did try again, and after discussing it with you, we decided that I would still very much like to try, but I needed something different.
Yeah, and so, here's a great little tip is, for you people out there who want to learn to ride, or if you already ride and listening to this, is that, Facebook, the group pages, I joined one for our local area, and, we've kind of talked, and I've gotten, good riding places and meetups and stuff like that. I just felt them out, and I was like, hey, everybody, here's what it is. My wife has a 28-inch inseam.
I think about there.
She's 5'3", which that's the thing is that everyone for short riders and stuff, they're always focusing on height. And as I've, kind of went around with, is that height is a relative term for short riders because you could be all legs. So
I am not.
Yes, you are not. Someone the exact same size, if they have a larger inseam, they're going to be able to feel more comfortable on a taller bike. And that's the issue, as we ran with Nikki, is that there isn't a lot out there for short riders. There is some, but isn't. But getting back to that, is that, I hit the group and I was like, hey, here's the stats of my wife. She's also needing something under 400 pounds. Because that's the problem is I found short bikes, but when we're talking like 800-900 pound, baggers, that isn't going to work. You know, she didn't feel comfortable on something. She wanted something she could maneuver, that she felt like if she did have to put a foot down and hold it up on an incline to the side, she could.
Yes, the weight of the Vulcan overwhelmed me, and
which I think now you'd be able, I think a lot of it was mental.
A lot of it was mental. I mean, I do have a medical condition that makes physical things more difficult for me.
That is an issue that comes and goes.
And sometimes I have some
hard.
muscle weaknesses that I deal with. So I just wanted something that almost felt more like a toy. I mean, I was starting to watch Grom videos thinking the Grom is for me. But then we looked up the Grom and discovered it had a 30 or 30.
I think it's a 31-inch seat height, which is ridiculous for what everyone says is a tiny little bike. Now, obviously, I bet it has a lot of suspension travel to where when you're actually on it, it probably sinks down several inches. But why look into a toy like that if it still was going to work? So, getting back to the story yet again.
You had a very kind person reach out.
Well, what I was saying
yes.
is that what should we look for? And we had several people suggest the motorcycle that it actually looked at for you, which was the Suzuki Boulevard S40.
Yes.
It's a 600cc single cylinder, I think.
Yes.
It doesn't look like it should be a 600cc for as small as the bike looks, but it is. And we had it at a local dealership up here, so I took her up there and said, "Get on it." After we talked to the salespeople, like, "Yeah, go ahead and do that." So she could sit on it, touch the ground just fine. Felt good. She picked it off the kickstand just fine. She took it off the kickstand just fine. She's like, "I think I could do this," and it felt good for you.
I could lean it side to side, and I felt like I had total control over the weight of that motorcycle.
So we thought that's pretty good. But then we ran it back. Problem with that is that, you know, it's about a $4,000 or $5,000 bike, and she did not want her first bike to be something that she liked that she thought she would drop.
Yeah, I thought for sure I would destroy it.
So, you know, I hit this Facebook group and I asked them, "Hey, what is something that would work good? You people with shorter riders, you know, what is your thing?" Because you can look on the internet all you want until you get someone who's had personal experience. Stats don't matter.
You get a lot of information, but it doesn't always apply to your situation.
But of course, people say like, "Oh, it doesn't matter how, you know, you don't need to be able to even tiptoe," and I don't agree with it. I agree with that with experienced riders, sure, but starting off, no, you need to be able to very closely flat foot, if not flat foot, especially if this person's terrified of it.
Yes, if you're not as terrified, say you're a shorter statured individual out there, maybe a woman, maybe not, and you already feel comfortable with a motorcycle, then you might be fine. But I was more frightful than probably most people were, which is odd to me since I've ridden, like you said, on the back of the motorcycle for so many years. I've never been in control of it.
Which is amazing because you get so car sick, but you don't get car sick on a motorcycle, which I've never understood as well. But so we're talking back and forth, and like I was saying, is several people actually suggested the S40 or the Savage, which is what it was called before, and that's like, hey, that's good to know that the bike that she's actually interested in, people are suggesting. Of course, a few people were like, "Hey, I got one for sale," because I did say like, you know, hey, would be a good thing, and does anyone have one of these? Because I thought, there might be someone who has this in the garage, much like me with a Vulcan that's sitting there now that I need to sell, but I haven't sold yet because I just didn't feel like getting around to doing it and dealing with it and everything. That could be the possibility. And lo and behold, a few messages into it, the guy goes, "Hey, I got one out here in the shed. Come look at it."
Now, this is actually not the S40 that he offered you.
I do apologize for that. Funny enough, he did have one.
He did actually. I
that's
spotted it
that's what
right away.
That's he did also have another one. It was his son's. But yeah, you're right. Of course, going back to that, a lot of people said Honda Rebel 250, Honda Rebel 500, Honda Rebel. And my whole thing was like, I didn't really want to get her a 250 because I knew it'd be good to learn on, but you know, I was just like, I'm afraid she'll outgrow it too quickly. And we have some great roads around us, but we live right off the 4-lane, so she would need something that could get out in 55-mile-an-hour traffic really quickly, with people flying around. And so having a smaller CC bike that goes 0 to 60 in 3 or 4 minutes just wouldn't work very well. So like a little 50cc, scooter wasn't going to work for her either, and nor did she want to even attempt that as well.
I have no bad feelings towards anyone who likes to ride their scooters. I just personally don't understand how you can sit like you're on an office chair and fly down the road. It seems awkward and uncomfortable and frightening.
I do agree with that. It is an office chair type thing, and I've got a buddy who's rides scooters, and he's my role model of how much he rides, and I want to try to ride as much as he does in a year. He takes those scooters everywhere, and I'm going to have to take him up on it one day of letting me try out his older one once he gets it back running again, just so I can say I've done it. But I feel the same way, that I feel like the ergonomics of it is frightening to me too. But so people were saying that, but I didn't want to look into that, But this guy who contacted me, getting back to the story, who actually did have the S40, but that's not what he was talking to me about. He said he had one. Now, we went down there and looked at it, because he had one, supposedly it had a title, supposedly it ran, and he was selling it for $600. And at that point, I figured that while I didn't want to get her a $250, $600 for a bike that had a title and ran was a pretty amazing deal, because if she dropped this thing and she banged it up, it's not a $5,000 bike.
Exactly.
To find out that
this is not for me.
This is not for her, because we didn't know. She was interested in learning, but there was always a possibility that she was just like, I'm terrified. I can't do this. I'm not going to do this. Get
done.
Away from me.
Yes.
I'm getting back on the back of your bike.
Yes.
Don't talk to me about this again.
Yes.
So went down there and met this gentleman. Really nice family. He trusted us completely. He took us to the shed. It was raining.
Oh, it was raining.
It was raining
so
pretty bad.
much.
But it was cold. The bike was cold. He brought it out.
Started it right in front of us.
And it had a little trouble going because it had been sitting there for a while, but it ran.
Yes.
I took it down the road. I felt like a gorilla on the thing.
You look like a gorilla.
I still look like a gorilla on the thing, because I'm, about 6'1". It's 6 on a good day, 6'1", about 6 foot. And it's this little tiny 250, and I do look like a gorilla on the thing. But I went and tried it out. It has a little issues of it. It's more of just what the Rebel is. I have a hard time getting it back in neutral unless the bike is off.
And I understand that a lot of individuals have complained about the neutral issue.
Yeah. So that might not be on this bike. It might just be that, that's the way they all are. But yet again, learner bike. And the mirrors were a little off.
The mirrors were wonky.
And his daughter had dropped it, so the back turn signals were gone.
They are gone.
And we haven't replaced them yet, because my whole thought was, well, if they broke off with her dropping it, that's probably going to happen again. Even though you've done amazing, you've not dropped this one.
I have caught it every single time I've gotten off balance.
Very little, and it's not happened in a while. But yeah, you met them, drove it around. It was about an hour away.
It was
close to it.
It was a little over an hour away.
So I drove this unknown bike that I felt like a gorilla on
this little back road.
A little back road I've never been.
In
raining, wet and raining. Back home, it made it
with tigers growling in the background.
Well, yeah, they were down near the tiger sanctuary, which was really. It was like, what was that noise? And it's what it was.
I was joking about I'm going to date this for anyone in our area. There was a tiger spotted in the Knoxville area at one point, and I was joking like, oh, there's that tiger they lost. And they're like, well, actually, that's Tiger Sanctuary. I was like, oh.
Was it Tiger Haven?
Tiger Haven. I'm sorry. Maybe? Well, anyway, people will fact check us, I'm sure, if anyone from the area is listening to this. But and then they let us really talk about it. They discussed all the pros and cons. Yeah. When his daughter arrived, she spoke to me directly about how it worked for her, and she learned very young.
Yeah.
And she gave me a lot of confidence. I thought, if this young lady can do it, then surely this not so young lady could learn.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, it worked out. We met some nice people. We got a affordable learner bike. A rainbow appeared in the sky.
Yeah.
And it was a sealed deal.
Yeah. And so, we brought it home, practiced on it. I guess we practiced on it here at the house first, right?
I believe our first attempt was, on our subdivision road at the end of our driveway.
And our driveway and stuff. And, let her do it a few times. And then, one thing about this bike, one reason why it was so cheap and all that is the guy knew it needed tires. And it needed tires. It was bald. It was like racing slicks had more tread than this does. So after a few lessons in our subdivision and taking it down close to our house to some parking lots, I was seeing some progress with her. I decided that we'd go ahead and sink the money into it, which was almost as much as the bike itself.
It was. But they're very nice tires.
Yes, they are very nice tires. But I decided that I didn't feel comfortable taking it down the road, after we got it registered and
insured
and stuff. I didn't feel safe anymore driving it down the road until we got new tires. So,
he like you.
Yes, that man
that I know. You took care of getting the bike where we needed it to go. Got those tires installed for me. I could tell a big difference, and I'm sure you could tell a big difference.
Yeah. It's much smoother.
I think it helped me feel more comfortable knowing that it had much better traction. Not that I was going very fast. But I feel like after that point, I did progress quite quickly for as often as I am able to practice.
Yeah. Well, let's go into some more detail about that.
Thank you for listening to our discussion about my learning how to ride a motorcycle. If you are interested in hearing more, please be on the lookout for part 2 of our chat, and we would love to hear from you. I especially would like to hear from you. If anyone out there has had a similar, I don't know if anyone has had a similar situation as I have, since I am a little bit extra paranoid about learning how to ride a motorcycle. But if anyone out there has had a story about any fears or concerns that you had when you first started learning to ride, anyone out there who did not know how to ride a bicycle first, anyone who would just like to have a chat, I will be checking the comments on this video, and I'd love to hear from you. So if you don't mind to take a moment to like this video and perhaps hit the subscribe button and maybe even ring the bell.
You wanted to say that, didn't you?
I've always wanted to say, hit that bell.
Yeah, we do plan. We've not finished this yet. She's still in the process of learning as we're recording this. The rest of our chat the first night went really long, so we're looking at a multi-part for this. So definitely get notified of the upcoming episodes. I'm going to try to get these things out. Maybe have one up about every week or so if I'm able to keep up with it. The next video is going to be interesting. I do have some video for it, but I was more concerned about her learning to ride than to take video, and it seemed like, and she kept pushing me to take video of her, but then she'd get nervous. She says, "You recording me getting nervous?" Like, but you told me to do this. So I don't have a lot, but I do have some, and going back and trying to get footage of this later just feels weird because I'd have to have her pretend to be worse, and that's not a good thing to be practicing. Is, hey, act like you don't know what you're doing now. So we would like, if you do tune in, I've had a great time just chatting with her about this. I mean, it's my wife, and I was there with her when she's learning, but I've had so much fun with this first little section of talking with her, and can't wait to do the rest of the parts for this. And hopefully by the time I get done with that, she'll be fully riding by then, and we can do a conclusion follow-up for it.
Maybe we can have some video of us riding together.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely. I mean, I've got a camera mount already on your motorcycle. It's just that you're like, I don't want you to put it on yet. I'm like, well, okay, that's fine. The mount's there. Or
no one needs to see up my nose while I'm trying to learn how to ride a motorcycle.
well, you have a helmet on.
I don't close the visor.
Your nose is still not. I can't see your nose. Okay. Plus, you're going so fast, right?
I'm going to have to shut the visor soon. The wind will dry out my contacts.
But anyway, the part 1 has went extremely long. If you made it this far, thank you so much. I know that it's a long video. I personally like these storytelling type stuff, so the length here doesn't bother me. I find it good entertainment. It's good entertainment while I've been sitting here editing this first 20 plus minutes of this first part of it.
If you haven't guessed yet, he's kind of long-winded.
I'm a little long-winded. I'm always straight to the point and never get on tangents.
Okay, I'm going to end it. Thank you very much.
We'll see you soon.